It all comes down to this. After 52 days and 59 games, we are all set for the final of the Indian Premier League 2020. We're all set to watch four-time champions, five-time finalists, the Mumbai Indians, take on the Delhi Capitals in their first ever final. It's all happening at the Dubai International Cricket Stadium in just under 45 minutes from now. We will be with you on Whirlpool Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout, powered by Dell, right up to the first ball and through the toss. IPL finals are a special feeling. They're a unique feeling. Few people have had the privilege of playing in them. Few people have had the privilege and enjoyment of celebrating with them. But we've got two of those people on our panel tonight. Gautam Gambhir is here. He knows everything about an IPL final, including what it takes to win after going into it as the second place team and beating a team that was top during the league. Tom Moody is here as well. And he knows everything about winning and losing an IPL final. Right, let's start off with Gautam. It's a special feeling, isn't it, Gautam? An IPL final.
Well, absolutely. When you worked so hard for 2 months and probably before that as well. And then obviously it's very, very self-satisfactory as well. As a unit, as a team, as the entire support staff as well. When you reach the finals, yes, anything can happen. But then, yes, that's one thing that you should be proud of, that you've been able to reach the finals.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what's happened before this, Tom, isn't it? It's all about playing 40 overs of good cricket.
Yeah, look, absolutely. It's being composed and just remembering, and this is a bit cliche, that it is just another game of cricket. And to me, when you reach finals, it's more about, it's a celebration. You as a team to go out there and just celebrate the best cricket you can possibly play and not worry too much about, the what ifs or the consequences, just getting out there and just doing it together and putting your best foot forward.
And what a season we've had, Gautam. On such challenging times, we've seen a Mumbai Indians side that continue to reinforce what is probably now a firm statement that they are one of the more formidable T20 units in cricket. They've been the team, you'd say, head and shoulders above the rest. And your Delhi Capitals, who had their highs and their lows, you'd think they somehow found their way into the final in spite of some of the wheels coming off towards the end. But what's the sort of matchup in the final? It still doesn't seem like just because Mumbai are the strongest team, they've had the big season, that we can say, oh, this is Mumbai's game. There's something about an IPL final that levels things.
Well, absolutely. I remember in 2012 when Chennai had beaten us in both the games in the league stage. And that was our first IPL final. We were playing at Chipok against Chennai and we were chasing actually 190 plus. So, as Thomas just mentioned it to you, that it's a complete crap when people say it's just another game of cricket. Absolutely not. It's not another game of cricket. Yes, you worked for 2 months and you want to go out there and you probably want to just cross that final hurdle as well. But one good thing that happens when you play the finals, that whether someone has won 4 times, whether someone hasn't won even once, the pressure remains exactly the same. Probably in the league stage, Delhi might be under more pressure than Mumbai, because obviously you don't know at that stage who was at the top and stuff. And even when they were playing in the playoffs as well, because Delhi probably and Mumbai didn't have that much of pressure because they had that opportunity to slip up once. Yeah. But today, when it comes to the finals, yes, Mumbai has won it 4 times, Delhi hasn't, but then even Stevens. And there are no underdogs, there are no favorites, because anyways, when you're playing 11 against 11, there can't be any underdogs. Yes, Mumbai has been a more stronger side, but nothing counts today. All that counts is 40 overs of cricket. Whoever can start off really well, whoever can actually be aggressive, ruthless, and most importantly, whoever is more desperate to win an IPL will end up winning it.
I wonder what the pre-match dressing room chat is, or dugout chat is, and comes to a final. I like that you mentioned 2012, Gautam, because you think Chennai, were firm favourites. They were playing at Chepok. They were the standout team. You think of the league phase. And they won the previous season too, so the defending champions. And Kolkata came up. There was an unlikely hero. You mentioned the Maninder Bisla story earlier. What a pre-IPL final team talks like?
No, it's a very weird thing. In 2012, when actually we were playing our first final and we used to have our team meetings, obviously in a hotel room, before we used to leave for the game as well. And probably that was the only team meeting in 2012 where I didn't even speak a word. Because obviously players spoke and Trevor Bailey spoke, and then when it came to me, I was probably the last one to speak and I didn't say a word. And because sometimes you don't need to say a word. You don't need to say a lot before such big games, because everyone knows the occasions as well. And I remember when we actually were bowling first as well, even during the hurdle, I didn't say a word. All I said is try and silence the crowd. That's about it. Because obviously we were playing against the odds, we were playing in Chennai. So the lesser sometimes you say, the better it is, because let the players realize themselves that it's a big occasion. So sometimes you can, by saying a lot, you can actually complicate things as well. And the lesser you complicate, the better it is when it comes to big games as well. So in 2012, probably the only game where I didn't say anything was the 2012 final.
Yep, 2016 was a different season. The final was at Hyderabad, wasn't it, Tom? And I mean, Gujarat were the league toppers. You think Hyderabad found momentum at the right time? What was pre-IPL final dressing room talk like in 2016?
Yeah, look, it's an interesting one from a coach's perspective, where all you're trying to do is create an environment and a build-up that is seamless. It's pretty much how it's been throughout the whole tournament. You don't try to beat up the fact that this is, the game of their career and all the hoo-ha that is going with it, that they may be reading, whether it be in newspapers or reading it online or hearing it on the television. It, as Gotham's quite rightly said, it's another game of cricket. So from a coaching perspective, you're just trying to keep everyone relaxed, calm, and just keeping that environment, that atmosphere, a fun atmosphere, because teams play their best, individuals play their best when they're relaxed. So it's trying to create that environment where people feel relaxed, feel like they belong there, and welcome the opportunity that lies ahead. It's an exciting thing. Not too many people get a chance to play in big finals.
Yeah.
So it's welcoming that opportunity with open arms.
And
Yes,
Ronak, just want to say, see again, sun will rise again tomorrow, whatever happens today.
Yeah.
So this is not life and death. Yeah, but yes, there might not be many occasions going forward where these players will get an opportunity to play the IPL final. So if you've got this opportunity today, just enjoy it. Just enjoy the occasion. I know there won't be any crowds and stuff, but you are part of something which is very unique. Not many people have got that opportunity. So 11 who takes the field today for Delhi will have that opportunity. Yes, there are some players who've already played the final, but there are some players who've never been in the finals.
Yep.
And that is something which you will remember for the rest of your life as well. That yes, I was part of 2020 IPL final. I played that game. So whatever happens today, yes, someone will win today, and someone surely will be the IPL champion. But sun will rise again tomorrow.
Yeah, fair enough. It seems to come pretty quickly for the Mumbai players, though. They make these finals for fun. They made it for the first time back-to-back in quite a few seasons. And it is a Mumbai v Delhi clash. This is nowhere to say that Gautam Gambhir is a Delhi Capitals fan, but he's a Delhi boy. We had to have some Mumbai presence. But let's welcome the Mumbai presence. Here he is, Sanjay Manjrekar, all in his glory. There he is. Sanjay, welcome to the IPL final coverage. I will point out to our viewers, Sanjay is not late. He was the first one to join. And just as we were addressing a few technical glitches, Sanjay had to just drop out, and back he is again in all his charm. Sanjay, all set?
So what is this Mumbai connection? I mean, the only thing about Mumbai Indians is the name that is, there is a Mumbai connection to it. Because when you look at the players, they are all fantastic players from all over the world. That's why I've never understood some people thinking, I've got this Mumbai attachment and stuff like that. Yeah, it's just, as I said before, when we went on air, I'd be actually happy if Delhi Capitals win today, because that will be kind of a story, isn't it, for a team that has tried so many things over the years, and that title has eluded them. So if they get it tonight, it'll be nice. It will just be a nice story.
Underdog stories. Everyone going for the underdog story. Tom Moody, you know all about the underdog story. Everyone was rooting for Sunrisers, certainly against Chennai, and I don't know if it was against Bangalore. At least I was. Is the underdog story with you today? Are you backing the Delhi Capitals by heart, or does it not much bother you?
We didn't think we were underdogs up against RCB and Bangalore. What are you talking about? Yeah, look, I think sport allows you to align yourself with that underdog story, and it doesn't matter what sport it is. I think for some reason everyone likes to see, that team or that individual, fight above their weight and overcome the giant. And in this case, Mumbai Indians are the giants of IPL cricket. Their record speaks for itself. So I think there'll be a lot of people supporting Delhi Capitals. I will be supporting the team that actually just puts it together on the night. To me, that's what it's about. I look forward to seeing a team that manages to absorb the pressure, welcome the opportunity of playing in that final, and just play their best brand of cricket. to me, they're the ones that deserve to lift the trophy, is the ones that hold it together on the big night.
Yep. Now we're going to have a more detailed discussion on the final, and we will wait for the toss, which is now 10 minutes away. Let's see how big a toss that is in the final. But this is the last game of what's been a remarkable tournament. It's been a flawless tournament on part of the organizers, and we're going to look back at some key takeaways of IPL 2020, and we're going to do it through the lens of ESPN Cricinfo Smart Stats. Now, if you're not familiar with what Smart Stats are, this is just a quick reminder for you that this is what we take into account. We find a new way to try and more accurately read T20 cricket. We believe the conventional metrics of average, economy rate, strike rate don't perhaps do justice entirely when it comes to T20, modern day T20 cricket. So Smart Stats takes into account conditions, the overall match run rate, runs per wicket, the support available for a particular batsman if he's played an absolute heist like an AB de Villiers and won the game on his own, the phase of play, the required run rate in chases, and other such factors are taken into account to give you a better numerical reading of the impact of an individual player. So that's what Smart Stats does. If you think that was all too much, then let me go into some key numbers for batting. And I'm going to take Tom Moody, Sanjay Manjrekar, and Gautam Gambhir's views on this. We're going to look at some of more impactful players. Orange cap, purple cap, brilliant. They celebrate prolific run getters and wicket takers. But there are other impactful players that perhaps go missing when we only look at awards through highest run getters and wicket takers. So let's look at some of the top performers with the bat firstly through ESPN Cricinfo Smart Stats. And we're going to first just talk about batting. We all know that KL Rahul and Shikhar Dhawan have been among the smart runs or among the leading run getters. But what about the top smart runs this season? Now, you'll see Shikhar Dhawan features there. You'll see KL Rahul features there. I'm going to give you a more apt description of exactly what that is. But before I get to those numbers, Sanjay, it's fair to say that sometimes we only look at top run getter, wicket taker. We forget other impactful performances, which are equally important in modern day T20 cricket, isn't it?
And it pains me actually, Ronald. That's why I'm, a big fan of these kind of ratings, because it's ridiculous when an award or a cap is given to the highest run getter, because over the years it's only going to be 1, 2, 3. The openers have a tremendous advantage there. And highest wickets doesn't necessarily mean. I mean, look at Rabada's contribution to his team versus say Rashid Khan. There's no comparison there. But because Rabada gets wickets, he bowls in the death in the first 6 overs as well as a fantastic bowler. Just wickets, just runs in white ball cricket is just unfair to all those guys down there. For example, if we had Smart Stats, 1996 India versus Pakistan at Bangalore, Ajay Jadeja would have got them the player of the match if Smart Stats were used, because Sidhu got a 90 odd. But when he got out, the score was 169. But Jadeja ensured that India reached 279 later, close to 300, and that was the match-winning contribution. And if not for his innings, the total would have been very inadequate. So I'm very glad to see a marriage of cricketing sort of instincts that fans have when they watch a certain game and say, this is the guy who played the winning inning, or this is the spell that changed the game. And you should start seeing that reflected on the list. That makes me happy. So it's a marriage of cricketing instincts, observation plus stats. And I'm very happy with the list that has been put out there, because Mayank Agarwal, if you remember, every time he's gone in, he's got runs, he's failed very rarely, and a strike rate of 140 and upwards. Shikhar Dhawan with those 200s had to be there. AB de Villiers scores very highly. Puran as well, Kiran Pollard. Surya Kumar Yadav, number 6, I'm a little surprised to see him down there. But the orange cap holder, KL Rahul, is rightly at number 8, because the others up there have made greater match-winning contributions than KL Rahul, who's a class player, but just sort of got into the spotlight on aggregate runs. So I like this.
Yeah, right. So this is what we're looking at. Tom, I wonder what you make of our metrics of reading it. Mayank Agarwal features there. He's played the kind of brilliant knocks, at the time, which has carried Punjab, where Rahul's been allowed to play a different sort of game that he put upon himself. You see Shikhar Dhawan up in that list, and the likes of Nicholas Puran too, sometimes single-handedly have kept Punjab in the game. You remember the game against Sunrisers, where everyone else was failing and Puran smashed those runs. He was literally a one-man show, and therefore our Smart Stats tend to put his runs in that game at a higher value. You like that way of reading it?
I do like that way of reading it, and what I can tell you is in most franchises, they use those type of metrics to secure their talent, whether it be at auction or drafts or whatever it might be. So it's not a foreign thing to me, and it won't be a foreign thing to a lot of people when it comes to recruitment, because there's more detail that's required than just someone that scores X amount of runs at an average of whatever that number is with a strike rate. There's more depth and details required. You need to know when they're scoring those runs, who they're scoring them against, at what phase are they scoring them, where are their weak points, where are their their good points, to enable you to complement your playing 11 in your squad. So to me, it is by far a fairer way of making an assessment on someone's performance. And not knowing how that formula has worked, though, with those points, to me, though, being more inclusive that way, you're going to get a clearer picture.
Yep. Gautam, we saw Mayank Agarwal's name at the top of that list. Now you made a point on an RCB game that sometimes we get carried away with RCB's batting because they play at the Chinnaswamy. You tend to have inflated numbers. Therefore, you look at this list now, and it does in some ways highlight players that otherwise you may not recall in the top players of the season. You might think Rahul, you might think Rabada, bat and ball. But this is something that tells us that these players that have had big impacts this season, Mayank Agarwal at the top of that list.
Yes, they have. But then for me, I think someone like Ishan Kishan and Kane Williamson.
Yeah.
Look at Ishan Kishan, who's at number 10. You asked him to open the batting. He was so successful opening the batting. You asked him to bat at number 4 when Rohit came in. He got runs at number 4 as well. And look at Kane Williamson. He's played at number 4. He would love to open the batting. So look at the kind of impact he's made at number 4. Yes, Mayank Agarwal, he's had a fabulous season, but he's actually batted at his number. He's normally an opening batsman, and he's batted actually throughout the tournament as an opener. But look at Kane Williamson. He's batted at number 4, probably the most difficult position to bat at, and the kind of game Kane Williamson has. He's not a power hitter. He's not like Pollard or Hardik Pandya, or for that matter, Andrew Russell. But with his sheer class, he got runs at number 4. Look at Ishan Kishan. Quinton de Kock actually opened the batting throughout the season. Look at Ishan Kishan. He was the one who was actually shuffled. So he's had an impact in both those positions. So for me, I think the number 10, Ishan Kishan, is probably the most impactful player in this list.
Yep. Sanjay?
Yeah, as I said, I'm very happy with that, because what tends to happen is that because the orange cap and purple cap gets a lot of attention, people will think of the best batsman of the IPL, K. Rahul, best bowler of the IPL, Rabada. So I think this is interesting because you have to put people like, I'm waiting for the bowlers list also to come out. And I'm sure that's where you'll find the Bumrahs and the Rashid Khans up there featuring in the top position. So as Tom said, it's got to be a little more detailed. T20 cricket has evolved. The viewership of T20 cricket has evolved. There's a lot of intelligent cricket fans watching it, and just aggregate runs and wickets is not something that one should recognize. And the fans also should be aware, if they're not already, about the guys who made the vital contributions.
Yep, that's a fair point. Gautam makes from Kane Williamson. You will not see Kane Williamson in the top 10 run getters list, but you will see him in our top 10 impact players list for batsmen. So,
Ronak, I'm sure. Yes, I'm sure if he would have opened the batting, he would have been in the top 3 or 4 as well. That's the kind of class he's got. Just because SRH actually wanted him to bat at number 4, he did that, and we've had that conversation. It's not about Kane Williamson, it's about SRH, and that's why they are so consistent. And that culture started with Tom being there. Before Tom actually was with SRH, the kind of culture they had then, to when Tom took over as the coach, to now, it's just the legacy that's been carried forward. It's the team first legacy. And we've spoken about it, the difference between RCB and SRH. And that's the legacy which Tom probably has created and is now taken over by the rest of the coaches.
Sure, fair point. Let's look at the bowlers as well, shall we? As Sanjay's pointed out, we've seen the batsmen and how we view impact for batsmen. We've seen smart runs, where Shikhar Dhawan's runs are still very good, even though he is among the top run getters this season. What about the most impactful bowlers this season? Jofra Archer is at number 1. Now, here's a bowler who's led the Rajasthan Royals attack. He's often been head and shoulders above any other bowler in that attack. He's kept his side in it virtually with new ball and at the death. And he's got a bowling impact rating that's higher than that of Bumrah, Rashid Khan, and even Rabada was not even on that list. And you've also got his smart wickets that I'll show you in a bit, which just tells you the quality of his wickets are significantly more than perhaps other wickets that you get. Simply put, if a batsman scores 20 runs of 5 balls, when the game's dead versus 20 runs of 5 balls to win the season. That's a completely different 20 runs, even though mathematically you treat them same. Similarly, for bowlers, getting wickets of key batsmen in the power play, key batsmen in the opposition who could threaten you, which Jofra Archer has done, Jasprit Bumrah has done, as against get wickets say towards the end when the game's dead of the lower order. That's the sort of distinction that's being made. But even though Jofra Archer's got just 20 wickets in the tournament, our smart wickets put him at 26.76, which is second only to Bumrah, because the quality of his wickets are so much more impactful. And it is something that we have seen, Tom, of Jofra Archer this season.
Yeah, look, he's a special talent. There's no question about that. He's one of these bowlers that generates surprising pace, and the reason for that is a technical reason. He's got a brace front leg, which is a fast bowler's dream, and he's also got a wonderful wrist that snaps through over the top of that brace front leg. And he gathers pace off the wicket because of those two ingredients and additional bounce. Now, there's no surprise whatsoever to see him sitting at the top because he took so many wickets in the power play. And Gotham's been a successful captain in IPL cricket. If you just ask him the simple question, can I throw you a bowler that's going to continually take your power play wickets? He'd grab it with both hands and run a mile because they're so valuable, those bowlers. You know, and Jofra Archer proved that for Rajasthan, but unfortunately for Jofra, he was carrying 4 other bowlers on his shoulders.
Yes, power play wickets is key. Trent Bolt is in that list too. This is nothing against Kageshwar Rabada, Gautam, that we mentioned. He's been brilliant as well. But we're looking at the impact of bowlers that have really, on their own, significantly changed games with the quality of wickets they've taken. And you will see Rabada a little lower down the order. Nothing against the wickets. He's been great. But you see Varun Chakravarti's name there. You see Sandeep Sharma's name there. They've essentially set up games with the ball, haven't they, for their sides?
Yeah, spot on. But then I'm going to give it to someone like Mohammad Shami.
Yep, absolutely.
Because there were always question marks on his white ball temperament. There were always question marks on his ability to be a good T20 bowler. And then most importantly, the attack which he was carrying on his shoulder. They have Sheldon Cottrell, yes, no doubt he's an international player. They've got 2 young leg spinners who haven't played for India. And then they've got a young, probably Jimmy Neesham or someone. So look at, they've got the entire attack as well. And Jofra Archer, Rashid Khan and Mohammad Shami, these 3 guys. If you look at Jasprit Bumrah, he's got Trent Bolt, he's got Pattinson to complement him. If you see Rabada, he's got Nokia, he's got Ashwin, Akshar Patel to bowl alongside him. But Mohammad Shami, Jofra Archer and Rashid Khan, mind you, Rashid Khan is a spinner, and spinner who's actually bowled unbelievably well in the first 6. He's bowled well in the middle and in the death as well. And look at his economy rate. It's mind-boggling. Under 6. If someone can go under 6 throughout the tournament, it is unimaginable. And plus, I'm not going to take anything away from the rest of the bowlers, but yes, Sandeep Sharma, you would not put in that same category of someone like Jasprit Bumrah or Mohammad Shami, or for that matter, T. Natarajan. All these guys are young Indian bowlers. And look at the kind of impact Rashid Khan has had on that entire bowling lineup. Look at Jofra Archer when he bowls alongside Jaydev Unadkat or Ankit Rajput and rest of the spinners. So that's why Mohammad Shami, Rashid Khan and Jofra Archer, you will always have Rabadas and Mumbai Indian attack there because of the kind of attack they have. They will always have more impact. But these 3 guys are the standout bowlers for me in this competition.
Yeah, just to close that conversation, Sanjay.
Yeah, just one quick comment, because I think these guys have covered everything about the bowlers. You'll also see in that list, you see that list again, what it also rewards, the smart stats, is consistency. Why is Rabada down at number 10? Because you'll remember at least 3 or 4 games or 5 games where he's really been unsuccessful or been taken to the cleaners and been disappointing, as opposed to, say, you don't remember a single performance of a Bumrah or an Archer barring that first game for Bumrah, a Rashid Khan, or for that matter Chahal as well, who's at number 7. You know, these guys just didn't have bad games. And that is where I think, again, this is very important to reward those guys who've been consistent right through the tournament. And it's great to see those guys who've been consistently good. Shami has been consistently good. Chahal, consistently good, featuring in the top list there.
All right. Well, these are names that you should remember. This tournament's going to be over from tonight, but don't just remember Rahul and Rabada. That's what we're trying to say. They've been brilliant, and they should, get their accolades as well. But this has been a tournament of the likes of Ishan Kishan and Kane Williamson and Sandeep Sharma and Mohammad Shami. So keep those names in your mind when you remember IPL 2020. Now, let's focus our attention to the final. The toss has happened and it's gone the Delhi Capitals' way. How big a toss was this? They decided to have a bat first, just like they did in qualifier number 2 against the Sunrisers Hyderabad, and they are unchanged from that last game, Shreyas Iyer's side. So they did put Mumbai in last time around, and Mumbai ended up serving them a 200 odd, which was too much for them to get. Let's get first thoughts. Tom, how big a toss is this? And for Delhi to win it in particular?
I think it's a massive toss for Delhi. I don't think it really would have mattered too much for Mumbai, whether they batted first or had to chase. I think for Delhi, it's a critical one because, one, they've got a lot of confidence from doing it in the last game. They're coming into this final with a very checkered score sheet form-wise. And generally with your weakness, you don't want to put your weakness under pressure. And at the moment, Delhi Capitals, if they have a weakness, it's with their batting. And if they can take the pressure away from their batting, allow them to play freely without worrying about chasing any totals and put a total on the board for their strength, which is, I believe is their bowling, to be able to defend that, I think that's certainly, suiting them.
Gautam, for a team that you know that Delhi going into this, perhaps Mumbai are the firm favourites. For them to just win this toss and bat first, which looked like something that liberated them last game, that's a big call as well. It settles them a bit.
See, I'm always a bowl first captain. I've done that in 2 IPL finals, and because I always want more clarity. Yes, but different teams think differently. Different captains think differently as well. And I've always believed, yes, there's always this theory of scoreboard pressure, but I've never felt that way. I always wanted more clarity that what total am I going to chase, and how do I need to plan my innings. And at the same time, yes, when I'm batting first, I'm someone who would always be unhappy with whatever total I put on the board, because you will always be thinking that you're 10 short and all that kind of a stuff. But when you're actually chasing a total, that this is how you got to approach the innings as well. So yes, they wanted to have that runs on the board and then put pressure on Mumbai Indians. But yes, as Tom said, that when you come into a tournament, when you've not had the best of probably tournaments throughout, like what Mumbai has had, you want to put runs on the board, and when you know that your batting order is a little bit fragile, even at the moment, but then obviously putting runs on the board is the best theory.
Yeah, that's what we discussed in the last game for the Capitals, didn't we, Sanjay? That for this team in particular, the sort of questions they have about their own batting first may be a good thing, and it carried forward into the final as well.
Yeah, just quick couple of points. It's a massive toss to win for Delhi Capitals. They had to bat first because it's a team batting unit that is recovering from almost a depressive kind of phase of batting, and then they had that great gain, and it was because they batted first and they batted well, so it was a massive toss for them. But having said that, they'll have to bat first, and if there's something in the pitch there, they are looking at the likes of Bolt and Bumrah to use those conditions. So it's a combination of wanting to do what you want to do, but the bowling attack is slightly different from the ones that they had against Sunrisers Hyderabad.
Yeah, well, they've gone for the same team, have the Capitals, no changes. We thought maybe they'll look at Praveen Dubey's place and think if they want more experience there, but Capitals are unchanged from the win against the Sunrisers. Mumbai have made one change. Jayant Yadav comes in for Rahul Cherish. They've gone with the off spin. There are plenty of left-hand batsmen in that lineup, and Marcus Stoinis took a particular liking to Rahul Cherish. But that is a change that has been made. Let's get thoughts on that. Gautam, Jayant Yadav in for Rahul Cherish. Do you like that selection?
Yeah, it's a good selection because someone who can bowl in the first 6 overs as well. And as you just mentioned, if there are a lot of left-handers in the batting lineup in the opposition, you would want to have an off spinner. And Jayant Yadav is a very, very underrated bowler. I have not actually, I can't imagine the last time when he's had a bad game in the IPL. Obviously, he's not played a lot of games for whichever franchise he's played for, but whenever he's got that opportunity, he's never had a bad game.
Yeah.
So that is the kind of insurance or assurance this Jayant Yadav gives you in your bowling lineup, which already is a very strong bowling lineup. Yes, Rahul Char is a wicket-taking option, but then sometimes in a big game, when you've got too many left-handers, you want that insurance kind of a player as well, who's going to give you those 4 overs and who's not going to be too expensive. So Jayant Yadav is a very good selection.
Yeah, he did play only one game this season. It was against the Capitals in an afternoon game. That was the end of the season, Tom. Now, how much is the last game played into this selection? Perhaps Shahbaz Nadeem bowling into the left-handers. They would have liked an off-spinner, but they didn't have one, the Sunrisers. And Rahul Cherish didn't have the best game in qualifier 1. Is that part of the calculations?
Yeah, look, I think that's definitely going to be part of the calculations. The other thing is they're probably thinking that He's a good matchup, early on against particularly Shikhar Dhawan, where he has at times been challenged against our right arm off spin in those power play overs. So they probably feel that is a valuable matchup. And also, you've got to consider form. Rahul Chahar is, he's had a reasonable tournament, but it's tapered off quite dramatically. So there'll be two things: form plus also where are they going to use those 4 overs, and how effective are they going to be? And they probably felt that the off spinner, his 4 overs are going to be a lot more effective than what the leg spinner is.
For a winning team, though, Gautam, do you think sometimes changing? I'll just wait for Sanjay's back, but I'll go to you, Gautam, for this. You've played a winning team. You just want to keep that winning team going. Rahul Chahar may have good games, bad games. To just play a player who you think is a bit cold, and the others had just 1 game all season, is it a bit of a risk?
Not necessary. I think they haven't made too many changes. They've just gone for just looking at the opposition. They feel that they need an off spinner in the bowling lineup, and plus at the same time, when you don't have Hardik Pandya bowling, and then you've got your 6th bowler as Karan Pollard, so you want someone who can actually give you those tidy 4 overs. So imagine if Rahul Chahar had a day or something like what he's had in the last game.
Yeah.
Then your 6th bowler is Karan Pollard, so obviously you will be a little short on the bowling front, and that's the reason probably they must have gone with someone like Jayant Yadav. So it's not necessary that it's not kind of a panic change, it's just a tactical change, and tactical change is absolutely fine. Panic change were the changes what we were talking about when they've made a lot of changes from the past game. They've just made a tactical change, which probably is the right change as well.
Sanjay, your thoughts? Jayant Yadav in for Rahul
Absolutely. Nothing more to add. It's a tactical change. It's not a change made out of hope or out of panic or anxiety. It's just looking at the opposition and looking at the left-handers on the side. People like, Hetmeyer is now a dangerous player, Shikhar Dhawan at the top. So they're just looking at somebody who's got the temperament, international temperament. This is a guy who's done well at the test level for a brief time. So I don't think an IPL final will get to him. I think it's a very good choice in hindsight. I've been a supporter of Chahar, but considering the danger that a couple of left-handers, and especially Dhawan when he went after Shahbaz Nadeem, most of his runs came against Shahbaz Nadeem. I think it's a good tactical move.
All right. Delhi gone unchanged into this one, so let's just get thoughts on that. Sanjay, we thought maybe they could get Praveen Dubey's selection, but they decided, no, this one last game, let's stick to it. Happy with that?
Yeah, I think I can understand why they've gone unchanged, and it's not fair to expect any changes. But I just want to throw this one up for Gautam and Tom to react. Would you have been tempted to bat somebody like a Prithvi Shaw at number 3, not change the opening? Because we know what Ajinkya Rahane brings to the table. And in the last game, the moment, the required run rate or they wanted to post a big score, Ajinkya Rahane is not the man. So would you have gambled with somebody like a Prithvi Shaw at number 3?
Okay. Gautam?
See, I've already spoken about it. I would have never dropped Prithvi Shaw for someone like Ajinkya Rahane. Yes, had there been an impact player sitting in the dugout, I would have definitely thought about it. But Prithvi Shaw for me has to be in this T20, in this Delhi team. He has to be. See, one thing is with Prithvi Shaw, that you know what he's going to give it to you. If he comes off, he's got to be a complete match winner. And you got to take those gambles. You got to take those. If you won't take those gambles in T20 format, you will never be able to take it. Yes, I would be tempted to play him at number 3. There's nothing wrong in actually putting him at a number 3 because he's actually someone who plays spin really well as well. He can actually take on the spinners. If you see his entire graph, he hits those big shots as well against spinners. He's a little boy, but then he hits those big shots if you compare him to someone like Ajinkya Rahane. Especially when you're playing Ajinkya Rahane at number 3. Especially after the first 6 overs, we saw what happened, that even in the last game, the moment 6 overs were over and then Hetmeyer was sent and then rest of the other batters were sent, and Rahane didn't even bat. So it is only about that if Delhi ends up losing an early wicket, then you would send Ajinkya Rahane. You would never try to send him once the 6 overs are done. So probably, yes, I would have definitely gone with someone like Prithvi Shaw.
That's interesting, Thomas. And we thought they needed the insurance, and we were quite keen on the move they made. Now, do you not need the insurance after one game? Can you go back to taking that sort of call in a final?
It's an interesting discussion, isn't it? In a final, you're not going to win it if you play conservative. And I think by playing Prithvi Shaw and the discussion around him potentially batting 3 is you're throwing all of your weapons at your opponent, where the Rahane one is more of yes, he's a very fine player, but it's more of a conservative approach. And to me, your finals are won really more with some smart tactical changes and some obviously composure on the big stage on the night. So that was potentially an opportunity missed where they could have made that switch.
Also,
Yes,
Ronak,
okay.
what will happen is something that I wanted to see right through the season. That will also get a little more depth in that batting, because Ajinkya Rahane out and Shaw in is not kind of a big risk or gamble. Then you'll also have Shreyas Iyer batting at number 4. And then you have Hetmeyer at 5, or send Hetmeyer up ahead, because I worry about Shreyas Iyer and I worry about his 20 runs innings. He was very lucky in the last game that Dhawan was scoring at a very good rate, and Hetmeyer came in and saved what would have been blushes for Shreyas Iyer, because you can't come in after, say, 8 or 10 overs and get 20 of 20. So that also would be sort of avoided by throwing Prithvi Shaw at number 3. Not opening, because Stoinis deserves to be there, Dhawan as well. And when you go at number 3, because all your failures have been at the top, you just going feeling different at number 3 as a batsman.
It's interesting you'll say this, because I would think that after you saw Rahane play that chasing knock against Bangalore and Prithvi Shaw looking hopefully out of form, that this is under the assumption that you lose an early wicket. And who would you rather have walking in if a first ball wicket falls? Would you have Prithvi Shaw at 3, or would you have Rahane at 3? And if that is the call,
Rahane, we compare him with the attackers and the dashers, and in comparison, he's not in the same category. But Rahane doesn't have the strongest defense either. If you remember the way he's got out in the last game that he plays, if there's a swinging ball out there, he's not your insurance to see out those 2 or 3 overs, because his defense is not really that strong. Comparatively, he's a little more defensive, but when it comes to being watertight, I'm not sure Rahane is quite there at this stage of his career.
Okay, that's a fair point. Now, I guess Delhi's best scenario would be if Rahane doesn't get a bat, because that would mean that the top order has worked and everyone else has then come in to play what should be an accelerating role. But does everyone play that role? And this is where I'll bring in the Shreyas Iyer conversation. Now, they won the last game, you would say comfortably, even though Williamson kept the Sunrisers in it. But there was a phase that we were critical of at halftime, Tom, and it was about how Shreyas Iyer approached his innings. And I would love to get Gautam and Sanjay on this, but I'll start with you. Lessons from that last game against a team like Mumbai, which has that firepower down below. That kind of innings can come back to bite you. Now, are you expecting a different Shreyas Iyer in the final today?
Oh, without a doubt. He's finding his way back into form. He started off well. He's finding his way back into form. I'm sure Ricky Ponting would have had a good chat to him over the innings in that last game, and we'll be giving him the confidence just to go out there and express himself, and don't worry about the consequences of getting out. And I think that's the beauty of a final, is that there's no game after this. So there's no point leaving anything, in the dressing room. You bring it all out with you and you put it on show. Yes, you're measured with regards to your stroke play, as in your shot options. You're not reckless, but you appreciate now's the moment to really show off and showcase what you've got to offer and not play that conservative role.
Yeah, let's assume they get off to a good start, Gautam, like they did in the last game, Stoinis and Dhawan. What's your message to Prithvi Shaw then? How does a batsman who's still trying to find his way go about it? Would you like him to just take the bowling on, and if you're out, there are enough reserves? Or can you afford to play the kind of innings that he did last time, take 10 balls, 15 balls, because there are batsmen to come?
Who? Shreyas Iyer are you talking about?
Shreyas
Yes.
Iyer, yeah.
See, I'll tell you one thing. With Rahane and Shreyas Iyer, you've got two guys who are very similar. You've got a very similar approach in their batting. Yes, Shreyas Iyer can be very dominating, but we haven't seen that in the last couple of games. When Prithvi Shaw is there, you get something different. If your number 3 and number 4 are very similar, then it's a huge problem if you don't go off to a really, really quick start. If you see with Sunrisers, when Williamson bats at number 4, but Manish Pandey bats really aggressively. But here, Ajinkya Rahane batting at 3, and if Shreyas Iyer and Ajinkya Rahane for some reason are batting together, who's going to be that one guy who's going to be an aggressor? But I see probably no one at the moment, because both of them are very, very conservative. And that's the reason we've been talking about that. Why not have someone like Prithvi Shaw batting at 3 and Shreyas Iyer batting at 4? At least if you're looking at someone who's kind of a banker, then Shreyas Iyer can do that job, what he's been doing in last couple of games. So that's the reason why I feel that 3 and 4 are very similar.
Okay, they don't have Prithvi Shaw today, Sanjay, but would you be tempted to throw Hetmeyer in earlier then if they get the good
Absolutely, because it's high time. Like they actually won the game, the last game, because they recognized current form. They looked at the reality, because for far too long they kept backing Shreyas Iyer, maybe because he's captain and he had promised a lot before the season, and Rishabh Pant as well. I mean, Rishabh Pant in the last game, if you saw him when he came out for a brief time, seems like he's completely lost his game. And you've got to feel sorry for him. It might just come out again today because he'll come out fearing, there's nothing to lose. But Hetmar is the man that is high on confidence. So when they use Stoinis high on confidence in the opening position and continue to send somebody like a Shreyas Iyer at number 3 and giving Hetmar lesser balls to face, it was incredible that he managed to make that kind of a difference with those few balls that he faced. So definitely.
Okay, yes, Gautam.
See, Ronak, one thing. I think if ever in doubt in a big game, take a positive route. That is all I've always believed in, especially in a playoff games and in those must-win games. I know if it's a must-win game, you want to be conservative, but then these are games where you got to be even more positive. You can't just hold back, like just Tom mentioned. You got to throw everything right up there. If you're batting first, you got to have that intent. Yes, we are coming at the opposition. You're bowling first. There is nothing wrong. And even if you go and bowl 2 bounces in the first over, just to give that message, yes, we are up for the fight. So today is not the day to be conservative or probably a little bit negative. It's all about just probably take the positive route whenever you're in doubt.
All right. What's the positive route against Bolt and Bumrah now? We've discussed this. Bumrah has been virtually impossible to get away. Bolt has just gotten better and better. Let me start with the opening batsman. Then we did a chat in the middle of this, Gautam, on how to see off Bumrah. I saw your own numbers against Bumrah. There has been a cautious approach to see off Bumrah and then take on the other bowlers. Batsmen are finding it hard to even see off Bumrah while they're defending. What's the approach that you would like to see today from Stoinis and Dhawan?
See, one positive thing what Delhi's done, they've got Stoinis and Shikhar Dhawan opening the batting for them. Both of them are in very good form. So that's one positive thing. If you see from the other side, when Prithvi Shaw was opening or Ajinkya Rahane was opening, both of them are not in the best of form. So that's one positive approach. When you're in good form, you look to score runs. You don't look to survive. And I know it's tough against Jasprit Bumrah because he's just quality, but then he can have his off day as well. And a half volley by a Jasprit Bumrah or by a club bowler is a half volley. So you got to think that way. You don't see Jasprit Bumrah coming in. You just watch the ball and react to it. Probably the only difference between Jasprit Bumrah and a first-class cricketer is that he's going to give you less run-making deliveries. But then a half volley will be a half volley. A short ball will be a short ball. So you got to look at that way. Yes, even if you've struggled against a certain bowler, you got to forget about it. It's easier said than done. But then you got to take that approach. That is what sport is all about. It's a new day. He can have a bad day. He can bowl a long hop. He can give you a half volley. You got to be ready for it. You can't just keep thinking that Jasprit Bumrah is coming. He's not going to give me any loose deliveries, and suddenly he gives you a loose delivery and you can't score off it. You got to look to score off it, whether you're struggling, whether you're in the best of form. That's the positive approach.
Tom, I go back to that game between Bangalore and Kolkata when you and me discussed what happens to batsmen when the ball moves and how much time batsmen spend in the nets practicing their game and defensive game and technique. And you said 0. Does this game now call for a different pre-match drill for the opening batsman? There's Bolt, there's Bumrah, and we have seen the ball swing at this very ground in the last game.
Yeah, look, again, I think this is down to personal preference, but, one thing you would suggest potentially against Bolt is for more so the right-handed batsman to bat out of their crease, try to negate the swing, try to put Bolt off his length. So the batsman has to feel comfortable with that and embrace that as an option. There's no doubt that he's a high-class wicket-taking bowler. But the other thing which I think is critical when you're up against a matchup like your Bolt and Bumrah type combination, the best way to reverse the pressure is by running well between the wickets. I would be making sure that my partner at the other end was 100% aware of every single little corner on the ground that I'm looking to take a single. And I'd need him to be there, and I want him to be there like I would be there for him. So one way you can throw someone off that discipline of high-quality pace and swing bowling is by picking up cheap singles. And there's nothing frustrates a bowler or a bowling attack or a captain more then you're getting runs underneath their nose. So if you can slowly turn the strike over that way, that's when the frustration comes in. That's when those half volleys come. That's where the short ball comes through frustration, or you break the cycle of their concentration instead of it happening the other way around. So you don't have to, take a long handle to them. More often than not, the statistics will tell you'll come unstuck with that approach. But what you can do is by slowly picking up those singles and running well between the wickets, you create opportunities to score those boundaries.
Sanjay?
Yeah, if you're going to go at the start of the innings thinking, these guys may have had a great season. Bumrah is one of the best T20 bowlers, but you know what, I'm going to take these guys on. That will be suicidal because, you need extraordinary ability to take on a Bumrah or a bowl. More Bumrah I saw him, but you're right to do it only once this season. But as Gautam said, if you're in form and if you're confident, then, you're not that intimidated by people like Bumrah and Bowl. So what you could do is stay real, stay positive. So that way, when you get that loose ball, you'll be able to hit those balls instead of, just missing it out because you're giving undue respect to the bowler. The thing that I see Dhawan doing when he finds that there's quality bowling and is not able to, he doesn't have that kind of a range where he's got a shot for every good ball. He'll start going down the pitch. You'll see that happening to Trent Bolt a lot. So he'll stay real. I think Stoinis is going to be the key. Whether he goes a little overboard because finally he's just got runs and feels that he's got to carry his form, he also must stay real and positive and not really overdo things.
Yeah, Gautam.
See, again, I think, as I just mentioned, don't look at Bumrah running in. Just watch the ball. Because if you're in good form, I know it's difficult to do that, but a half volley is a half volley. When you're in good form, just look to score runs. I'm not saying you got to step out and just smash Bumrah over the top and all that stuff. Just look to score runs. Just have that intent. And Tom just mentioned it to you. When you're looking to score runs, you'll have a better defense. But when you're looking to survive, you will not be able to hit a half volley. But when you're looking to score runs, you might just hit a good ball on the up as well. And that is what we keep talking about, the intent. That is what we keep talking about. The best players, when they've batted in the best of their forms, are when they look to score off each and every delivery. Your first option should be to score runs, and then your last option should be to defend it.
And we spoke of Stoinis as the potential opener against Bolt and Bumrah. And if anything, Tom, we saw in the last game against the Sandeep Sharma, initially he was just struggling and then, took off after a couple of overs. He's no problem against space, is he? You've seen him enough at the top of the order in the Big Bash. Even though it's Bolt and Bumrah, Stoinis, the opener, is still not a cause of concern for you looking at the quality of the fast bowling, is it?
Pace is not an issue. Marcus Stoinis has been brought up at the WACA, played all his junior developing cricket on a fast bouncy wicket. Pace is not an issue. The only issue for Marcus Stoinis will be movement. So if Trent Bolt and Jasper Bumrah do get the ball to move in the first few overs, that will expose him more than pace. Pace he'll welcome. If anything, the faster the better as far as he's concerned. That's not the issue. It's just from a technique point of view, he's got a few little question marks around the moving ball.
All right. I'm going to close with not a first innings predictive score because I know exactly what all three of you are going to say to that. So I'm going to leave that out. I'm going to give you a hypothetical situation instead. Let's say the openers take them to 65 without loss in the first 7 overs. They're going about 8 and over, 9 and over. Who would you send in at number 3? Do you send Shreyas Iyer? Do you send Rahane? Do you send Hetmeyer? Who do you send? Sanjay?
Hetmeyer.
Okay. Gautam?
Hetmeyer.
All right. Tom?
Hetmeyer.
All right. No one's even asked me left hand, right hand. These guys don't care about.
Can I make one very, very important closing observation?
Please,
we haven't
Sanjay.
talked about one. Suddenly, when you look at the Mumbai Indians side, until now it looked a side without any holes. But now when you look at their bowling attack, you're looking at Bolt and Bumrah, and we've talked about them extensively. The third seamer is Nathan Coulter-Nile, who has not, to my eyes, been as impressive as Pattinson, because I think you'll see him make a lot of variation. That way, the batsman also gets some good balls to hit. And look at the spin attack. Krunal Pandya and Jayant Yadav. So Pollard may have to bowl more than 1 or 2 overs. Whatever, all said and done, Chahar added an X factor in their spin department because Krunal Pandya is not your Akshar Patel. He's not as good. Left-arm spinner or Shahbaz Nadeem as pure. So those are the weaknesses that suddenly emerge if Delhi Capitals want to really, try and expose.
All right, it's a fair point. Let's see if they give their batsmen the best chance to take on what is Mumbai's vulnerability, if at all there is any, in the bowling attack beyond the Bolton Bumrah storm. Big thank you to Gautam Gambhir, Tom Moody, and Sanjay Manjrekar. More from them at our halftime show on Whirlpool Presents ESPN Cricket Info T20 Timeout, powered by them.
Thank you.